Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the Sikhin Covering podcast. This is the Ramadan series. We've come to an end. We've come to the end of the Ramadan series. This is our last recording for this series. Inshallah, after Eid, we are going back to our normal schedule, 1 week recording, then we skip a week, and then we release after that. So we releasing 2 times a month, and we're going back to inviting speakers on the podcast as well. I've really enjoyed recording the Ramadan series. I've personally learned a lot myself because most of these topics I had to do research on them. So it was very enlightening for me. Learned a lot. Yeah, let's get into today's episode. So today I want to share a story that really struck me last year, right? As I reflected on it, or as I reflect on it, it has a beautiful reminder for us during Ramadan, right? So last year I went to Pretoria around the time the jacaranda trees were in full bloom. If you've ever been there during that season, you will know exactly what I mean. The entire city literally transforms. Every road is lined with jacaranda trees, and their purple blooms cover the streets like a carpet. The trees, they arc over the roads so perfectly that it almost feels like you're driving through a tunnel of flowers. It's the kind of view that stops you in your tracks. Honestly, it was one of the most beautiful sights I've ever seen. My sister and I were completely dazzled by it. We kept stopping to take pictures. We couldn't stop staring at them. And we even said to each other that we should come back again the following year just to experience it once more. That's how captivating it was. But then, sometime later, we happened to pass through Pretoria again. We went to Pretoria again. Only this time, the jacaranda season was over, right? The jacaranda season had come to an end, and the city looked completely different. The purple blooms were gone, the trees were bare again, the streets had felt so the streets that felt so magical just a few months before looked ordinary again. Nothing looked the same. At first glance, you think, well, that's just the seasons changing. So that's normal. And yes, it is. It is just the season changing. But if you pause and really reflect, it carries a powerful lesson, a lesson that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to understand. Because this process, the bloom and the fade, is not meaningless or pointless. There's wisdom in it. There's a reminder here about life and what truly lasts. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Qur'an, know that the life of this world is but amusement and deviation and adornment and boasting to one another and competition in wealth and children, like the example of rain, whose plant grow pleases the farmers. Then it dries and you see it turn yellow. Then it becomes scattered debris. This is from chapter 57, verse 20 in the Quran. This verse is so striking. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala compares the life of this world to plants that grow after it rains. When the rain falls, the earth comes alive. Plants grow quickly. Everything looks green and vibrant. The farmers are all happy. They are all pleased. Everything is beautiful. It's inspiring. For a moment, it feels like life itself is flourishing. But that stage doesn't last. Eventually, the plants dry out. Green becomes yellow. What once was fresh and alive becomes debris. The same thing happened with the jacaranda trees, right? For a while, they were breathtaking. The streets felt magical. But eventually, the flowers fell and the beauty passed, and the city returned to its normal state. And this is exactly the same with life. One of the hardest reality for us to accept is that nothing in this world lasts. Everything changes, everything fades, everything eventually comes to an end, except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we look around carefully, we see reminders of this everywhere. Think about beauty, for example. Society celebrates beauty constantly. We see celebrities on televisions, in movies, in magazines, faces that seem perfect, lives that seem glamorous. But what happens after 10 years, 20, 30 years? Their faces wrinkle, their appearances changes, their health fluctuates, and eventually everyone passes away. Time does not stop. Or another example is, think about brilliance and achievements, the scientists, innovators, or thinkers whose discoveries seemed groundbreaking. But decades later, many of them face health challenges or even forgetfulness. Their strength fades away, their memory fades away, the fame fades away. Everything is temporary. Now, when we reflect on this, some people might feel discouraged, right? They might ask, why focus on this? Isn't it depressing to think about everything fading? But subhanAllah, the Quran doesn't tell us these truths to make us hopeless. It reminds us to wake up, to reflect, to see clearly what really lasts. When the jacaranda blossoms disappear, it is not meant to make us sad about the flowers. It's meant to make us think about what truly matters. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us in another verse in the Quran where He says everything will be destroyed except His face. And in another verse He says everyone upon the earth will perish, and there will remain the face of your Lord, owner of majesty and honor. These verses strip away the illusion that anything in the world is permanent. Everything we rely on, our possessions, our appearances, our status, even our lives will eventually disappear. But here's the hopeful part. The Quran does not leave us in despair. It gives us direction. It shows us what truly lasts. There's a very short surah that captures this beautifully. It's Surah Al-Asr. It's only 3 verses long, but it's so profound. Allah begins by swearing an oath. He swears by time, and then he says, indeed, mankind is in loss. Think about that. Human beings are in constant state of losing. We are in the constant state of losing time, losing opportunity, losing our youth, losing our health, and eventually even losing our lives. Everything in this world is slipping away, moment by moment. But the surah doesn't leave us without hope. It immediately highlights the exception. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that accepts those who believe, do righteous deeds, encourage one another to the truth, and encourages one another to patience. In other words, there's a group of people who are not lost, who are not in loss. People who understand that while everything in this world fades, our faith and our actions can last beyond this life. When we do something sincere for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we do something sincerely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a kind word, a prayer, helping someone, acting with honesty and integrity, it doesn't disappear like the jacaranda's blooms. It carries forward. It has lasting impact. These acts may seem small in the moments, but they are the things that matter. They are the things that truly endure. And once we understand this, it changes how we see life. We stop chasing things that are temporary. We stop building our identity around things that will fade. Instead, we focus on what actually lasts: our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our character, our actions, and our intentions. Because at the end of the day, only what is done sincerely for Allah will remain. The jacaranda blooms will fall. The streets will return to normal. The seasons will change. Time will pass. But the things we do sincerely for Allah remains. And that's the real lesson of the jacaranda. Its beauty reminds us how attractive this world can be. But when the season ends, it teaches us not to mistake something temporary for something eternal. Only Allah is everlasting. Only what is done for Him is truly lasts. So as we reflect during this Ramadan, I invite you to think about your own jacaranda seasons, the moments that feel beautiful, exciting, or even overwhelming. Remember, they are temporary. But the faith, the deeds, the sincerity, and the act of kindness we commit to Allah will endure. It will last. Take a moment to ask yourself, are the things I am chasing temporary, or are they lasting? Are they contributing to what will remain? When we live without that awareness, it changes our perspective. When we live with that awareness, it changes our perspective. It changes what we prioritize, and it gives us a deeper appreciation for both the beauty in the world and the reality beyond it. The purple blooms of the jacaranda may be fleeting, but their lesson is eternal. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us reflect on the temporary nature of this world. May He guide us to invest in what truly lasts, and may we use our time wisely, building a life that will benefit us in this world and in the next. Thank you for listening to this episode. With that being said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I will see you in the next episode, inshallah.